Again is Ross Feingold. Ross, what exactly does China want from South Korea in these talks? What's going to be the top of President Xi's agenda?
Certainly trade, and why that's important is we see so many countries adding restrictions of various kinds to their trade relationship with China, whether that's restrictions on the exports of certain technology or specific kinds of semiconductor chips or semiconductor manufacturing equipment, or it's restrictions on inbound investment from China. So certainly China's message will be we're a dependable trade partner, which is the opposite of the message that South Korea would hear from the United States, of course. The United States would say, reduce your dependency on trade with China. So China's going to say the opposite. We're a dependable trade partner. We should be expanding the relationship, not putting additional restrictions on. So anything China could do to keep South Korea from being fully on board with trade restrictions on China, that would be a good outcome from the Chinese perspective. Of course, they'll talk about North Korea as well. South Korea will look to China to put some pressure on North Korea to try to reduce tensions on the Korean Peninsula. Whether or not China is willing to do that or will be successful in doing that, that's a big if, because even if there's some short-term reduction in tensions, history tells us that Kim Jong-un will always decide at some point in the future to increase those tensions. And then you mentioned Taiwan. South Korea under new President Lee has not been an outspoken supporter of Taiwan the way Japan has been under new Prime Minister Takaichi. And that's probably not going to change, but China would still bring this issue up just to make sure that South Korea is not going to go down the road of Japan and make public statements that are supportive of Taiwan that China dislikes.
Ross, do you think there is urgency in Beijing after the war games in the Taiwan Strait and, of course, these heightened tensions with Takaichi to keep regional cooperation?
The reality is China's pretty good at that. Their foreign minister, even though they had changes at the foreign ministry and Wang Yi came back because the previous guy was removed for corruption, but the resources and the effort and the energy that China puts into its relationships with the ASEAN countries, with the Pacific Island countries, and with Korea, obviously not with Japan because there's tensions in that relationship. But China is always on top of this, and that's something that the United States, frankly, struggles to compete. We often hear that criticism of the United States. You come in, you don't stay long, the president makes a short visit, you're not really here on the ground the way China is. And the U.S. has successive presidents and their secretaries of state have tried to address that and say, no, we really are here. We are your trusted partner. It shouldn't be China. But we constantly see commentary coming out of these countries in the region here in the Asia Pacific that China is really very active diplomatically, and the U.S. needs to really do its best or do better to keep up with that.
Yes, Ross Feingold, thank you very much